Hello and welcome to On Europa League quarterfinals, first leg. Great games on Thursday. A lot of Italian flavor with Dani Fisichella for Italian teams. Dani, hello.
Hello.
And no Spanish teams, actually, Alvaro. They are all in the Champions League. We cannot complain. English, Portuguese, German, and 3 Italian teams. Great games to analyze with Dani. With Alvaro, back to YouTube, so don't forget to comment the video with us, to subscribe, and of course, follow us. And now let's go on with the show. Well, and the first game that we are going to analyze, full Italian clash, Milan-Roma in San Siro. Milan are getting used to, Dani, to play Italian teams. In Europe last season was Napoli, successful, Inter unsuccessful in the semifinals, and now they have Roma, and perhaps they are in the best moment of the season. 7 consecutive wins in all competitions, beat Lecce at the weekend, scored a lot of goals at home in the Europa League against Ghana and against Slavia Prague, but this Roma is different with Daniele De Rossi. In the first game, we saw an attacking football, a lot of goals. In the last 4 games, Dani, under 2 goals in all Roma games, but something has changed because, for instance, now they win the Derby de la Capitale, and that was unusual in the previous months.
What a massive win for them, after 4 derbies with no wins and no goals. They won 1-0, but they deserved to win. They were very courageous. They were very combative. Look, Daniele De Rossi in 2 months and a half has completely changed Roma, has given Roma his charisma, but not just the charisma, not just the passion, also tactical knowledge, is also the ability to manage tight games. They play more on the front foot. It's a different formation with 4 attacking players on the pitch, Al-Shaarawy, Dybala, Lukaku, and Pellegrini. They create more. They are not so concerned about not try to concede, and they try to outscore oppositions. Of course, the last 4 games, all under. But I don't think it's going to be a trend until the end of the season. And when it comes to Milan, really in form. 26 points in the last 11. By the way, the same tally as Roma. 7 consecutive wins in the competition, as you mentioned. That was the first time it happened since 2006. That tells you quite a lot of how difficult the recent times have been for Milan, but really they are keeping pace with Inter. If it wasn't for the blip in mid-October, mid-November, we would have had a title race in Italy, I believe, also because the derby is coming up in a couple of days. But Milan are showing they got a lot of weapons, they got a lot of ammunition up front, with already 4 players in double figures. Leao, good contributions already. Giroud already 13 goals this season. Pulisic 10 goals, best ever tally since he plays in Europe. Chukwueze is playing better. Okafor and Jovetic are always dangerous from the bench. Loftus-Cheek already scored 4 goals in the Europa League, and it can continue. So it might tend to believe they have more than Roma at the moment. Roma, whose attack is a little bit dry. Lukaku, no goals in 5. Dybala hasn't scored in the last 3. Pellegrini, on the other hand, is in very good form. Scored 7 times since January. And there is a big news for Roma as well, the return of Tammy Abraham. Now they have 2 center forwards. And, it's something to be taken into account. I wouldn't be too surprised if Tammy Abraham, from now on, plays a little bit more than Lukaku towards the end of the season. But you have to look a little bit to look at this game. You have to forget it is a Europa League game. You have to think it's more of a league game, if you like. But there is, of course, the added pressure of the 2 legs. No teams wants to be out of this competition after the first leg. And normally, when teams from the same country meet, and especially when teams from Italy meet, the result is always under 2.5 goals. I've crunched the number last night. There have been 36 games in Europe between Italian teams. The first one was played in 1985. Now, 29 of those 36 games have produced 2 goals or less. You would say, rightly, most of those games were played when the away goal rule was still in place, so even more cagey. But last year, 4 games in the Champions League, they were all under. And I think this is going to be the case. Also because Milan at home are very strong defensively. Only 8 goals conceded. Roma away from home only kept 3 clean sheets so far. It could be a low-scoring win for Milan. Maybe 1-0, 2-0. I'm going to go for the under 2.5 goals though, 189.
Well, the head-to-head is really favorable for Milan in the recent years. Last win for Roma, 2019, was in the Olimpico. In Milan, we have to go back to 2017 or 2016. By the way, the Rossi scored a goal in that 4-1 victory for the Giallorossi. Alvaro, you see Milan this favorite?
Not this favorite, but I'm going to back them. I think that it's very difficult to determine who is the favorite in a non-Italian game. Do you remember last season, Milan against Napoli? I thought that Napoli was better than Milan, and they really were, because they ended up winning the Scudetto, but in the Champions League, and Milan went through, and then they played against Inter in the semi-final, and it's very difficult to determine. I do believe that precautions will exist, and Roma has improved in 2024. Same thing applies to Milan. I think that Milan under Pioli, they've been having a good season. They are second. They're going to qualify for the Champions League. They have suffered only, Milan, 4 losses at home this season. And I really think that Pioli is one of these underrated managers that has made Milan hit some levels that no one expected. I mean, Milan broke the roof a couple of years ago, and they are still competitive, and then finishing second in the Serie A because they might, and probably they will. It's an achievement in itself, really. And then they've got the dangerosity that Daniele was referring to. I mean, they've got 4 players this season who have scored 10 goals or more. Yep. And Pulisic is improving. Loftus-Cheek, I don't understand why he doesn't get picked by Gareth Southgate, especially now that Jordan Henderson seems to be the option for the right midfielder for England. Giroud, he will leave next season, but he's scoring the numbers. Rafael Leao is the biggest creative catalyst of the team. So many good things. And for Roma, same thing too. I know that in the head-to-head, look, I think that the Giallorossi have won only one of their last 13 games against Milan, but this is a different thing completely. Look, I'm going to back Milan with an Asian handicap minus 0.25, 160. I'm not committing to the tie because I don't see the point yet. AC Milan to win, 191. It's pretty good as well, but I prefer to stay with the handicap of the minus 0.25 for the home side.
Well, Milan 1.7 to qualify, Roma 2.3. Remember, they are the runner-up of this competition, especially strong when they play at the Olimpico. But for instance, this season away from home in Europe, couldn't beat Brighton, Feyenoord, Servette, or Slavia Prague. So Roma really suffer when they travel in Europe. Full Italian tie, this Milan-Roma. At the same time, we have Leverkusen-West Ham. Leverkusen can be crowned champions next week. In Germany, they are in the cup final, but also they have a good chance to do great in Europe. But surprisingly, they struggle even more in Europe than in the local competition, especially because they were lucky enough to get Karabakh, and they were this close to be kicked out in a really high scoring win or tie since that draw in Karabakh in the last minute. 6 consecutive wins for the team coached by Xabi Alonso. West Ham is kind of a hit and miss this season, Alvaro. Very difficult to predict. And Germany recently is not a great place for West Ham. Lost to Freiburg in the first leg this year in the previous tie. Away from home also lost in Athens this season against Olympiacos. We saw them losing last year or 2 years ago against Eintracht Frankfurt. But West Ham, they are really targeting these competitions. They won last season conference. How do you see this Leverkusen-West Ham? Leverkusen, right now, they are favorites for everything, of course.
Yeah, they have to be favorites, and I do believe that they are favorites, definitely for this game. Then, when you travel to the London Stadium, things happen, that's for sure. And we have seen West Ham United being very successful in Europe lately, over the last 2 years, beating Sevilla in the Europa League, getting far in the Europa League too, last season winning the conference. But for this game, I think that Bayer Leverkusen is the favorite, and for the tie as well, but I'm going to focus on this game again only. I think that West Ham is a side that is enjoying a terrific period in their history right now, and sometimes they complain about tiny stuff. But if the fans see the big picture, they should know that the West Ham is going through a terrific moment. I think that they are experienced. They've got a manager like David Moyes who wants to make a point every time, because I think there are less and less British managers in the Premier League, let alone Scottish, by the way, because 10, 15 years ago, the Scottish managers were considered the most astute from all the British managers. And right now, I think that he's the only Scot left in the Premier League, David Moyes, after especially the departure of the serial winner Alex Ferguson. But one thing that I like about West Ham United, but it could enclose a potential danger, is the fact that they always play with the same lineup, or pretty much the same one. So the team knows how to play with each other. Every player knows what to expect with from the footballer alongside them. But still, in the long run, maybe this brings some issues to West Ham United, issues or exhaustion. But so far, it hasn't happened. For this game, David Moyes, though, will have to experiment a little bit because Edson Alvarez, a very important player this season, is suspended. I guess that Ward-Prowse, who scored an Olímpico goal the other day, Paquetá and Thomas Soucek will be playing as midfielders, and then Kudus, Bowen, and Antonio will be playing up front. But if David Moyes wants to be a little bit more cautious, he can also drop Antonio and play with Calvin Phillips, who is eligible for the Europa League, even though I wouldn't do that, because Calvin Phillips' mobility can be easily challenged by Bayer Leverkusen's high-speed football. But anyway, Bayer Leverkusen is in a great moment. This weekend, they may win the Bundesliga. They have been unbeaten in all competitions for 41 games already. The treble is a possibility, not a probability, but a possibility. And one thing that I love about them against Karabakh, because I was watching, especially the second half against them at home at Bayer Leverkusen's ground, one thing that I love is that Bayer Leverkusen, under pressure, they had to score a goal. They had to score because otherwise they were out. They had many ways of attacking. They had a variety against the defense that was defending very deep. It's difficult to find variety. Sometimes, as we say in Spanish, the game becomes a little bit like handball style, with the team just moving the ball from right to left, left to right, without finding spaces. And Bayer Leverkusen was finding the spaces. And one thing that they were doing very well was sending vertical low balls to the striker, who was waiting in the penalty spot for him to do a 1-2 to drop the ball to another teammate, and that worked for Leverkusen, who ended up obviously making it through. They don't get predictable. They don't get stagnant. They've got many ways of attacking. I'm going to back Bayer Leverkusen here. Them to win 151, fine, if you like it. But I'm going to go for an extra one, which is Bayer Leverkusen to win and over 1.5 goals in that game, 165.
Well, they are scoring many goals in the last minute of the games. We saw them, for instance, recently against Hoffenheim in the Bundesliga.
All with Patrick Schick, yes.
They are second favorites to win the competition, just behind Liverpool, and they are super favorites for this time, 1.38. Perhaps too much, Dani, because West Ham in Europe, they are kind of reliable, especially, as Alvaro is saying, when they play at home, obviously.
They are more reliable. It all depends how Moyes is set up to go. If Moyes goes out there to Germany just to defend and contain, they're going to be picked apart. But if they find the right balance between defense and attack, I think they got a lot of exciting players going up, up front. West Ham, above all, Kudus. And I think lately Bayer Leverkusen have struggled. What is impressive is they're still unbeaten, Bayer Leverkusen. So are they going to finish the season unbeaten? Are they going to fall anytime? But let's just figure it out for a moment. Bayer Leverkusen on Saturday, they're going to win the league with a win at home against Werder Bremen. They never won the league. They were called Leverkusen. The last time they won a title was in '93, a German Cup. Is this not the right time, the best time to play them in another competition and inflict a little bit of pain? Somehow, they must be distracted. Somehow, they must feel they are really close to the biggest goal they could achieve this season. And West Ham, with a bit of courage, I think they can score past Bayer Leverkusen. Now, whether West Ham keeps a clean sheet in Germany, I don't think so. I think it's going to be a both to score game, 181. West Ham past 21 away games in the Premier League, by the way, have seen at least 2 goals scored, 78 in total, 34 for West Ham, 44 against. So they do concede a lot of goals away from home, but they also score, and they won, with a penalty, of course, with a goal from a corner, but they won against Wolves. The big doubt for Moyes is whether Bowen is going to be fit. Already 19 goals this season. Without him, of course, they do lose a lot of threat, but only 2 defeats for West Ham in the last 9. One of them was a Freiburg in a very, very drab match. Only 4 clean sheets in the last 9 for Bayer Leverkusen, as I mentioned. They're slowing down a little bit. Both to score, 181.
Well, having Bayern Leverkusen usually is a high-scoring game. Perhaps the tie with a lower profile is Benfica, Olympique Marseille, because none of them are doing a great season, to be honest. Benfica was very disappointing in the Champions League. They are second in the league, and they lost to Sporting Lisbon at the weekend. And even in Europe, well, they beat Rangers or Toulouse, but we cannot say they were especially flashy. Whereas Olympique Marseille, Dani, after Gattuso with Gasset, things were going better, but now 4 consecutive defeats. They were almost kicked out by Villarreal after the 4-0 win in the Velodrome. That's why perhaps I could tend on or lean on Benfica slightly, but none of these teams are particularly good at this moment.
What is particularly worrying about Olympique Marseille is that, first of all, they were outplayed by Lille at the weekend. They conceded 3 times in the second half. And also Gasset used the same expressions, the same words that Gattuso used a couple of weeks before getting sacked. They said they were rubbish, they were an embarrassment. It's been a very chaotic season for Olympique Marseille, and a team that has got some quality players, the likes of Klaus, Aubameyang above all, but they seem only to switch on and off. And yet, clearly, those good results under Gasset were a clear new manager bounce, and now they have reverted to the mean a little bit. Also, if you look at the long win run, they haven't really beat anybody very strong. As soon as they started playing PSG, ran the return match against Villarreal, they lost. And I think that really doesn't bode well. They are 10 points away from Monaco in the league, currently in 4th. They're not going to play Champions League football unless they win the Europa League, which is very unlikely. When it comes to Benfica, really, this is the game of the season. They play for nothing at home. They kind of surrendered the title to Sporting by losing 2-1 on Saturday. They didn't deserve to lose, by the way. They conceded after 44 seconds and then in the last minute. But for large spells of the game, they played well. The problem is that, the goal. They got problems scoring goals. And lately, they also lost to Porto 5-0, lost to Sporting in the Cup. They're not in a great moment, but they got experienced players. And the fact that they struggled against Rangers, really, it's a red alert for me. Unbeaten in 19 games at home, to be fair, Benfica. I'll take the under 2.75 goals, 191. So if there are 3 goals in the game, you lose half a stake.
Really balanced this tie. I guess both teams were lucky in the draw to get each other. Benfica still slightly favorite for this tie, 1.7. 2.2 for Marseille is always a roller coaster, Alvaro. Marseille, every single year, is kind of the same. They have a self-destruction bottom, and they are pressing it right now.
Yes, they do. And against Villarreal, they played with fire. Don't forget that. They were losing 3-0 at some point, and there were 10 minutes remaining. And I think that they were tremendously benefited by the fact that Villarreal shot themselves in their foot in the first leg in France. But, it's not a side, this Marcel, that we have to take them as a robust side, because they are not, really. They are fragile. They can concede anytime. They are capable of scoring many goals, yes, but they have to score many to win a football game. And for Benfica, pretty much the same thing applies, really. Benfica this season, they have lost to Sporting Lisbon 3 times already. Sporting Lisbon, in fact, has been the nemesis of them because they kept them out of the league and the Taça de Portugal. As Daniele was saying, Benfica also lost 5-0 to a Porto side that this season is struggling to score goals. When Benfica collapses, they collapse pretty badly. But on the other hand, they score goals, especially at home. I mean, this season they have scored at home in every game but 2. I'm talking about Benfica. And then Olympique Marseille have scored in 9 out of 10 games in the Europa League this season, which points me inevitably into the votings to score market. I'm going to back that one, 170. Olympique Marseille has the best ever scoring in the Europa League as well. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang has scored more than 20 goals this season after a couple of seasons being loaned out to Barcelona, to Chelsea. That didn't work for him. So, goals can happen in this game. Both teams are pretty fragile. As I said before, both teams to score. And one thing about Benfica, it doesn't look good that you play on a Friday after the international break. And Di Maria, who has to travel crossing the Atlantic Sea after playing with Argentina, Di Maria starts in the lineup. It doesn't look good for Benfica. If Benfica had more options on the right, Di Maria wouldn't have played. So that tells you a little bit that this is a side that is tremendously hanging on players like Di Maria, who shouldn't be making such an effort at their age. But anyway, that's why I'm going for both teams to score, because I think that both sides can make mistakes.
Well, both are the ones having higher odds to win the competition with 21, so the bookies don't trust them. They met in 2010, was the last time in the Europa League, and Benfica won 1-2 in Marseille, and we saw a draw in Dalus. And the last game is Liverpool Atalanta, number 1 favorite to win the competition. Liverpool, they are perfect when they are playing at Anfield, smashing every team. 17 goals scored and 2 goals conceded this season in Europe at Anfield. We saw them dropping points against Man United in the Premier League. I'm not sure, Alvaro, if this title race in the Premier League could pay at all in the European competitions, because I'm 100% sure that Liverpool fans prefer to win the Premier League than the Europa League.
Oh, yeah, of course. But I think that Liverpool has high energy levels and they are recovering many players. So, of course, it's draining to have a title race, but Liverpool are so used to that that I honestly, I'm going to back them. Remember that in 2022, they had also a really long title race until the 38th game week in the Premier League. And in 2022, they reached the Champions League final as well. So they are very used to having to juggle between Europe and domestic affairs. So I expect a great game, really. I think that Atalanta will attack. I have seen Atalanta playing good games against Liverpool with the same managers, by the way, Klopp and Gasperini, because Gasperini has been Atalanta manager since 2016, Klopp since 2015. I believe that this is going to be quite an interesting encounter. Liverpool are capable of attacking a lot. They come back from losing positions many times. In fact, they did it on Sunday after getting a draw at Old Trafford. Obviously, they weren't happy or flattered by that because they started winning that game with a goal from Luis Diaz. But then Manchester United came back, scored 2 goals, and then Mohamed Salah scored the equalizer. But Liverpool had a lot of chances against Manchester United. In fact, Manchester United didn't take a single shot in the first half against Liverpool, and then it was a mistake by Kwanzaa, who set up Bruno Fernandes, that changed the title a little bit. But Liverpool had like 5 clear-cut chances to win at Old Trafford. They didn't. But I believe that they are better than Atalanta, and I believe that Atalanta is going to attack. So I'm going to go for Liverpool to win the second half because there is a good value in there, 167. Otherwise, there is the same money for the following combination, which is Liverpool to win and over 2.5 goals in the game, 167-2. But I prefer Liverpool to win the second half. Don't ask me why. It has happened this season quite a lot. I believe that in Anfield is a trend, so I'm gonna back that one. Otherwise, there is a little bit more money in handicapping Liverpool with minus 1.25, but I'm more than happy to stay with Liverpool winning the second half. Players are coming back, by the way. Diogo Jota, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and Alisson are the only ones missing, but they are not missing them because Diogo Jota has been perfectly replaced by Darwin, Luis Diaz, and Mohamed Salah, because Kelleher has been doing a terrific job as a second choice goalkeeper for Liverpool. And then Trent Alexander-Arnold is important for Liverpool, 100% yes. But Bradley, the academy player who has started playing for Liverpool this season, is doing a terrific job as well, replacing Trent Alexander-Arnold. Everything looks good to me when it comes to Liverpool, so I'm going to back them.
Well, Atalanta, they are doing a great European season, beating Sporting Lisbon in the group, and then in the previous round, no defeats in this Europa League. In general, good numbers. Also, away from home in Serie A recently, Dani, they've slowed down in the recent dates. Do you give them any option against this Liverpool?
No, sadly no. I think Atalanta have been good this season, but certain things are gone against them. First of all, they had a lot of injuries, and they had a lot of games, consecutive games, a fixture pile up. By the way, this is going to be the 8th away game they play in the last 10. They only won one of the last 5 away from home against Napoli. They seem to be very inconsistent. They alternate good performances to ones where they seem to take the foot off the gas. And lately, also in that 3-0 against Napoli, the 1-0 defeat against Fiorentina in the Coppa Italia, they've been saved by Carnesecchi, the goalkeeper, made a lot of great stops. But curiously, in the Europa League is the other goalkeeper that normally plays, Musso, who, by the way, conceded 6 goals in 7 games. Gasperini has got a lot of dilemmas because playing in 2 cup competitions and being in the semi-final of the Coppa Italia means you need to make a lot of rotations. And also the 5th place in Serie A, which at the moment guarantees a spot in the Champions League, depending on the UEFA coefficient, is not so far away. Atalanta also have 1 game in hand. They didn't play against Fiorentina before the international break, so another fixtures that is going to pile up at some point. The away form is difficult to judge. They are 8th in the away table in Serie A, only 4 away clean sheets in the league, only 1 away clean sheet in the Europa League against Rakov Czestochowa, and 3 of those 4 away clean sheets in the league were against struggling sides. Against Cagliari, they took the lead, and in the end, they managed to lose. Big miss in defense. No Scalvini, Italian international, out for a month. I know Atalanta won there 2-0 in 2020 under Gasperini, but 2 weeks before they were beaten 5-0 in Bergamo, and I think that's perhaps more reflective where these 2 clubs, where this group of players are. It was a stronger Atalanta as well, with Ilic, with Zapata, with Papu Gomez. It was the glory days of Atalanta with Gosens in good form. I think Liverpool wins this one, maybe above to score. There is a very nice piece I read on The Athletic. Liverpool conceding a lot of goals early, and why? Well, some people say if you concede, it's better to concede early. At least you got all the game to recover, but Liverpool seems to do it quite a lot. For me, it's Liverpool Asian handicap minus 1.25, 179. If they only win by 1 goal margin, you only lose half a stake.
All right, you actually both agree on the same tip back in Liverpool with handicap really favorite for this competition, and the home numbers are just great at Anfield in the Europa League. Remember that we have the tipster competitions open for you. You can participate for free, get some good money monthly, yearly, or whatever you decide while you have fun playing with Oddspedia. Dani, your safe bet to put in this tipster competition?
To put in the tipster competition, to put in my profile, to add to everything you can find there, is the same I said about Liverpool before. Liverpool, Asian handicap minus 1.25, 179.
Alvaro?
I will make it slightly safer. Asian handicap minus 1 for Liverpool, 154.
Liverpool as a safe choice for our tipsters. The ACCA, Alvaro?
Asian handicap minus 0.25 for Milan, Bayer Leverkusen to win, Liverpool to win the second half. Altogether, 403.
3 home teams. Dani?
Milan, Roma, under. 2.5 goals. Bayer Leverkusen, West Ham, the opposite, over 2.5 goals. And Liverpool, Atalanta, over 3 goals. Total odds is 5.75.
Well, a Thursday with goals in the Europa League. Thank you, Dani. Thank you, Alvaro.
Ciao.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Speak soon. Bye-bye.